Roll call. First item is roll call. Mr. Borden?
John Borden is present.
Thank you, Mr. Furell.
Ben Farrell is present.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
Kevin Donovan is present.
Mr. Harris.
Langdon Harris is present.
And the chairman, James Nod, is present as well. Missing tonight are Mr. Reposer and Ms. Horowitz. So the first item on the agenda under zoning board business is regarding external communications and discussion and vote. I'm going to withdraw that. That was my, I asked for that to be on the agenda. I'm going to actually withdraw that from tonight's agenda. So that we will not discuss. Moving on, first item on the agenda then under old business is the Aquidneck Country Club. Mr. Chappelle.
Is your microphone on?
How's that? So I've been asked to withdraw without prejudice. Just as by way of information, we will be trying to deal with the town, the planning department and the council on putting forward some legislation that allows the Aquidneck Club a forum to go forward, which looks, we're going to try to put it through the resort district, which is how they do the Newport Beach Club.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I'm going to make a motion that the Aquidneck Country Club be allowed to withdraw without prejudice.
Could I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Motion's been made and second to allow the Aquidneck Country Club to withdraw its petition without prejudice. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay, let's see. Next item on the agenda under old business is petition by George and Marie Corey. Mr. Chappelle.
Good evening, everybody. As you may recall, this matter was on for last month. The board had recommended some changes that would not change the frontage, therefore not require any zoning relief. I've not had the opportunity to discuss those with Mr. Corey. He's been in and out of the hospital over the past couple of months. So just looking to continue it to the next regularly scheduled meeting and hopefully be able to meet with him and potentially withdraw the matter next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the petition of George and Maria Corey be continued till our next regularly scheduled meeting in July.
Could I have a second?
Second that.
Motion's been made and second to continue the petition of George and Marie Corey to our regularly scheduled meeting of July 21st, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All righty. Next item on the agenda under old business is East Main Road LLC, Dewberry Matt Burke, Tesla. Is anyone here from that petition? Oh, yes. Okay. Was it Matt Burke? All righty. Mr. Burke, are you on?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Burke, we can.
Hi, thank you. So picking up from Ed for a few weeks ago, we've updated our plans and I've sent those over to Leah and I hope that those are provided. But just as recap, we are proposing superchargers at the existing gas station and convenience store facility. We've updated our plans to add some landscaping around the charging posts based on some feedback from the board a couple weeks ago. And we've also, instead of replacing the existing light pole, we're proposing just to relocate the existing light and keep it centered in the revised spaces. And then as far as the biggest ticket item that we were hoping to discuss tonight is the traffic study. Unfortunately, the owner does not have a revised traffic study, but Tesla is prepared to do that. And we respectfully request the board grant us our approval with, a month or two to complete that study and provide it so that we can keep our project moving forward.
Well, the only issue is you're asking to modify an existing special use permit, which is not in compliance. So
That's
I
fair.
mean, we gave the owner a year when we initially granted that. So, I mean, I'll ask for other members to chime in as to what their feelings are, but I have to tell you, my feeling is, you know, I'd rather continue this pending that traffic study that was due years ago.
And that's fair. And I mean, that's completely fair. And if that's what the board's chooses to do, we totally respect that and we'll do that. We're essentially asking to not punish us for something the owner should have done, and we're going to fix that mistake. And we're just asking to, continue our project, moving forward so that we can secure our building permit, get our construction started. I don't think our installation, changes the traffic study or changes any of the existing conditions in any material way. But in summary, we respect the board's position there. We're just asking for, what's the right word? Leniency, so that we can keep things moving forward and fix something that should have been done a long time ago.
Mr. Knott, that,
Yeah.
if I'm correct, that traffic study was due 14 years ago, is that correct?
Oh,
So-
no,
so-
not 14, no. It was when the gas station was originally built, which I don't know the exact date of that.
And the town never requested it
Oh, yeah, no, we requested it. It was up to the owner to provide it.
within a year.
Within,
And there was no
at the end of
follow-up?
1 year, they were to redo a traffic study,
Okay.
and they never did it. So,
I don't have any strong feeling that this is particularly relevant to.
well, it is, in my opinion, it is only in the fact that you're asking to modify a special use permit, which isn't in compliance.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
the petition was approved in October of 2009.
So what's the board's druthers?
Um, Mr. Chairman, I mean, it could turn out that the traffic study isn't going to impact their charging stations, but we don't know until the traffic study is done. And this board requested it. It hasn't been provided. And my thought is that they should not be allowed to move forward until we get a traffic study.
Any other opinions?
I would concur with Mr. Borden's position that we need to clean up the original special use permit before proceeding on modifying it.
Mr. Donovan, any comments?
I'm going to concur with Mr. Borden for reasons he stated.
So, Mr. Burke, I mean, you kind of hear what the board's consensus is.
Yep, that's fine. Can we request a continuance then?
Oh,
to
absolutely.
To complete the
Absolutely.
traffic study and provide it to the board. I'm not sure that we'll be able to complete it in time for the next hearing, but if we can continue it for that, and then we can stay in touch with the administrative staff, and once we have it complete, then we can come back in. Does that work?
Even if you can somehow get a preliminary traffic study without, a full blown one, that would help.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so,
Mr. Chairman, quite honestly, I'm surprised you didn't already initiate the study. You were before us last month and you haven't even started the study.
We weren't sure if the board was going to add any additional, requests to the study, or if it was just going to be.
We requested it last month.
yeah, there's nothing else other than a traffic study. There's nothing in particular. Traffic study is a traffic study.
Fair enough.
It would have been one thing, Mr. Borden brings up a point where it could have said, geez, we've contacted a traffic engineer. They weren't able to get us in this month, but we're on the schedule to have it done on X amount of time.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, look, we were trying to coordinate to see if it was available with the owner, and then, fair point. Respectfully request a continuance so we can complete that and come back in and seek our approval.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we continue the Tesla petition to our regularly scheduled meeting, July 21st.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second to continue the petition of Tesla 3302 East Main Road to our regularly scheduled meeting of July 21st. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Burke, it's been continued.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first item on the agenda under new business is Patrick Carberry and Lee Michaels seeking a dimensional variance for side yard setbacks to construct a 200 square foot storage shed at 47 Elm Street. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
Could I have your full name and address, please?
Patrick Carberry, 47 Elm Street, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, 02887.
Okay, Mr. Carberry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like outlined in the paperwork. I bought a home in, I think, 2020. And when I bought the home, there was a foundation, well, or a platform that looked like there was an existing shed that had been there. There was a concrete kind of base around it. And it's, I would like to put a shed in on my property for reasons, because the house has a single car garage, but it can kind of fit 2 cars if there's room in the garage. And I have lawn equipment such as a tractor and snow blower and rakes and things like that, where if I could move those into a shed, it would allow me to put both cars in the garage during the winter. It'd help with plowing, it'd help with organization. And so yeah, I'm here seeking zoning relief and approval to build a 10 by 20 shed on my property.
10 by 20?
Yes, 10 by 20.
Okay. You do realize that 10 by 12 is allowed as a matter of right in town. You don't even need to be here.
Yeah, I am aware of that. Like, I kind of just, like I said, that it's got a 10 by 20 concrete like base for a shed already. So it just seemed like a perfect opportunity to take advantage of it.
Go ahead, Mr. Boyd.
Mr. Chairman, I would just raise the question. When I look at the site plan, I'm just wondering if the shed is like 90% in the side yard, and I believe sheds are only allowed in the rear yard and not the side or the front yard.
That is correct as well.
So that would require another variance, I believe, to allow the shed to not be in the backyard.
I believe you are.
Is it
they're
the size of
proposing
the shed
11 feet. I wonder what the
in the
side
backyard,
yard.
or
Yeah,
is
it
it
would.
just the shed in the backyard?
I'm sorry?
Is it the concept of the size, is this the size the problem, or is it the
No,
shed?
no,
being-
it's just under the ordinance, sheds are to be in the rear of the property.
If it was a 10 by 12 shed allowed by the ordinance.
Yeah,
It's to be placed in the rear yard within 3 feet of the property line.
okay,
Anything larger than the standard shed would require a side yard variance as well, or a rear yard variance, because it would now, in this particular case, it would have to be 30 feet from the rear yard and 20 feet from the side yard is where it would have to be, whereas you're proposing 11 feet from the side yard.
yes,
So you'd have to ask for a 19-foot variance. Put it there.
Wouldn't it be a 9-foot variance if 20?
Wait a minute. Yeah,
20
my
feet?
bad on that, Mr. Warden, you are correct. It's 20 on the side. Yeah, be a 9-foot variance. So that
And-
requires that too.
Mr. Chairman, would you also need a variance to put the shed in the side yard as opposed to the rear? In other words, the ordinance prohibits
Right.
sheds in the side yard and the front yard.
Right. Probably correct in that respect.
it's really the only place you can put a shed. There's not space for it in the front yard. The middle of my yard has septic.
Appears to be plenty of room in the rear yard though.
It is in the shed is in the rear. It's in the back right-hand corner of the yard or the land.
The drawing we're looking at is showing it on the side. It's like directly on the side of the house.
It's pushed I can drew that to the best of my abilities, but it's behind the house in the,
So is there any reason if it were allowed, it couldn't go all the way to the back of the property where normally the shed is allowed?
there's no reason not to, other than I had planned to use the existing platform that was there already. Which I believe there was a shed there before. I did try to look up records to see if somebody had gotten zoning
Right.
relief to build the shed there, but I think it was done a long, long time ago.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr.
Board.
Chairman, I'm not sure if you could approach for a second. and-
Absolutely.
If you could approach and look at this drawing, are you saying that, see, this shed appears to be in the side yard of most of it. Are you saying this platform is mostly in the rear yard?
Yes.
So it's behind the house?
Yes.
All right, so it is in
Okay.
the rear yard.
So it's
Okay.
just a drawing issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't do well in architecture class. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Sometimes those little details as to where it is, even on a hand drawing, it's.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you talking it out
Um,
with me.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So 2,200 square foot house, single car garage on that, correct?
Correct.
Full basement or?
It's an unfinished basement, yes.
Square feet additional. Any other questions from the board?
No, sir.
Nothing? All right, according to Mr. Borden, and he is correct, you would also need a 9-foot side yard variance. Which is really,
I think that's the only.
that's the only
he
reason
needs.
he's here. See, his petition says 19-foot rear yard, but it's not.
No, it's not. He's got.
It's a
43
9-foot
feet.
side yard variance. All right, so we're all clear on that? It's a 9-foot side yard variance. Thank you, Mr. Carberry. I just have to ask for like butters or interested parties that may want to speak on this.
Absolutely.
So, do we have any butters or interested parties that would want to speak on this petition? You have anybody on Zoom, Leah? Do not see anyone. Nope. Okay, so Patrick Carberry and Leah Michaels before the board for tax assessors map 63 lot 15-3, seeking a 9-foot side yard variance for the purpose of constructing a 10 by 20 shed located on their property. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, petitioner has 30,056 square feet. The lot coverage is 9%. Petitioner wants to be able to park his cars in his garage. At 9% lot coverage, the petitioner has the right to fully utilize his property. I think to deny would amount to more than a mere inconvenience to store lawn equipment, tools, et cetera, in the shed. I vote to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I will also vote to approve for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
I vote to approve as well.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
I vote to approve for the reasons stated by Mr. Board.
Thanks. Chairman votes to approve for the reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden as well. I probably would vote in the opposite if you had a 2-car garage, but the 1-car garage, totally understand. So it's been approved.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay. Next item on the agenda, petition by St. Benedict's as the applicant, property located at 285 Corey's Lane, seeking a special use permit under 405 of the town ordinance, requesting to construct a new 8,000 square foot student center on the site of an existing monastery and boarding school. Mr. Galvin, before you move on. Mr. Gavin, so we have a question for you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak, I'm currently being represented by Neil Galvin from Galvin Law. And I feel as though that it's only right to recuse myself from this petition. Not a popular decision, but I think it would have to be continued because we wouldn't have a quorum.
Yeah.
If we could just have a moment. There's a significantly important timing issue here, and I wasn't aware of any ongoing representation there. Mr.
He's going to be, I've called him in the last couple of weeks. He's going to be representing me in the sale of a property on East Main Road. We have 7 members. I thought there would be a quorum.
Yeah,
I
we
was
thought
surprised
surely we
there's
do.
only 5 members here present.
We're going to be able to figure out a way to proceed without my representation. So if I could, if you could give us 1 minute,
Yeah,
just 1 minute, we'll be prepared to proceed.
okay.
Okay? I'll withdraw my appearance.
Hey, I
Yeah.
got to do the right thing.
That's right. Why should
Bless you.
Special use permit.
And meanwhile, I gotta go see the lawyer. Absolutely. You ready to proceed? Okay. Can I have your name?
John Pereira, 285 Corey's Lane, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
And Mr. Ferrera, what is your position in this?
Yes, I'm the assistant head of school, and I'm also the monastic cellarer, so I represent the Order of St. Benedict in Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
All right, Mr. Ferrera, explain to us what the Abbey would like to do.
Well, the Portsmouth Abbey has proposed a new student center, which will be in the center of the campus. The zoning there is an R60 zone, and under Chapter 5B2 of the zoning code, the private school use is R60, but it requires a special use permit. I'm reading from his notes. I am not an attorney, and I'm getting no
Nope.
fees for this. Yet. So, Portsmouth Abbey, as you know, we've been part of the community, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have to do, and we've been before you before. So we want to be fully transparent here, what we're doing. We went before the design board and the planning board and got their full endorsement. This building is going to do a tremendous service to our students in their residential life and in their daily lives. It's the middle of campus. It's in the former area that was St. Bede's house that we took down about 7 or 8 years ago. So it's basically the same footprint. We spent a lot of time, the architects, finding out the exact place that we felt we needed to put that for reasons of accessibility and the flow of the campus. Currently, our student center is very undersized. It's actually in one of the former original buildings of the campus. And it's gone through various iterations over the years. It was at one time a classroom building, then it was an art building. Now it's the student center, and it's very undersized. This building, which we spent a lot of time designing, working through the programmatics, gives us the capacity to service the 350 both boarding and day students that we serve. It's something that we really have needed. It's part of our master plan, and we have now the opportunity to erect that building. To that end, we have various representatives here, both from the architects and from the engineering to give you answer any questions that you need, also to present exactly what the building is. And so first up would be Joe Titoni, who is a principal at Icon 5, who's one of the designers of the building. So,
Sure.
Joe, if you could walk us through.
Can I have your full name and address? please?
Yes, my name is Joseph Titoni, 11 Jefferson Road, Princeton, New Jersey.
And how do you spell your last name?
T as in Thomas, Attoni.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to recognize him as an expert in the field of architecture, or do you think that's a moot point?
I think it's a moot point, my
Okay.
honest opinion.
I'm fine.
I am a licensed architect in the state of Rhode Island. I was going to tell you that.
Go ahead, Mr. Titoni.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much. I am a principal at Icon 5 Architects, and as I mentioned, I am a registered architect here in the state of Rhode Island. Thank you for letting us share with you a little bit about the developments of this new student center. It is a one-story, 8,000 square foot center for the student life in the center of campus on the site of the former residence hall that was there. Next slide, Leah, please. The Portsmouth Abbey campus, as you all probably know, is located between State Road 114 and Narragansett Bay. The campus entrance and the core campus buildings are located off of Quarries Lane, which is about a half-mile west of the intersection of 114. And the student center, the site of the student center, is in the middle of campus, right at the head of Ravens Quad, as per the master plan, and it has views of the bay. Next slide, please. The campus character, if you've been on campus, is established by many things. There's a consistency character of expression of materials, iconic roofs, broad overhanging eaves. So the design of the new student center reinterprets and builds on that rich tradition that's already on the campus. Next slide, please. This is an aerial view above the bay looking east toward the site. And the site, as you can see in that image, is set between the Holy Lawn and Ravens Quad, the two big outdoor spaces on that campus. Next slide, please. Looking west, what you can see are views to the bay. So you understand how prominently the design will feature views to the water from inside. Next slide, please. The student center in that site plan is oriented west toward the bay, so that all the major spaces inside have connection visually to the water. The building's 112 feet long and 72 feet wide, with a overhanging pergola that covers a west-facing outdoor terrace, the full length of the building. Next slide, please. Additionally, the site will be landscaped with trees and ground cover around it, and all pathways leading to the two entrances into the building are handicap and universally accessible. Next slide, please. So this is a view, if the bay was at your back, looking east toward the center of campus. Next slide, please. And this is the proposed view, looking across Ravens Quad. The student center frames the head of the quad, a copper brise-soleil roof, very similar to the other copper roofs on the campus, and a pergola, diffuse sunlight coming into that student commons. I'm going to show you a picture of that in a moment. And the overall height of that building is 25 feet, which is lower than all of the adjacent structures. Next slide, please. So the two-story inside space is the student common space, and that's enclosed with wood windows that look out onto the terrace, which is in front of it. You can see it in that rendering. Some amphitheater seating down to the lawn, Ravens Quad, and then the bay. The upper portion in that view of the commons is wrapped in a brise soleil, basically a solar screen that's made out of punched and folded copper that relates back to the other iconic roofs on the campus and carefully diffuses the sunlight coming in. Next slide, please. This is an existing view looking from the south pathway looking west toward the water. That south pathway connects the Holy Lawn to Ravens Quad. Next slide, please. And this is a similar view along that south pathway looking toward the bay, illustrating the main entrance on the east facade to the Student Center, the extended pergola that then frames the views of the water, and the main exterior materials of the building, which is copper for the roof, board and batten cedar siding, similar to the rest of the campus for the vertical wall surface, and the Aquidneck regional field stone for the base. Next slide, please. Just to give you quickly an understanding of what spaces are inside. So central to the Student Center is the Student Commons. That's the big space in the middle of the floor plan. It's a double height space, as I mentioned before. It's kind of designed as a big porch that looks out toward the water. And what will be going on in there is casual study and socialization spaces, a place for student presentations, movie night, dances, all the kinds of things that you can imagine that students need in a student center. So it's a flexible space. Supporting that on the perimeter are 4 group study rooms, a 2-person administrative office, a lobby, and a cafe grill. Next slide, please, which is the last one. And this is an overall view of a commons looking north toward the fireplace. And the inside of that space is made out of Douglas fir timber framed construction that gives a warm woody character to the inside of the building, similar to the other spaces on the campus. You see the copper brise soleil at the top that allows dapple sunlight to come into the space, making it, we hope, a very inspirational environment for socialization and work. So I thank you all very much for this opportunity. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have about the building.
So it's a single-story building, but yet there's 2 levels inside, correct?
It's has a double height space, but it's only, all the program is on 1 floor and it's 25 feet high.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Tony.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Ferrera, just a quick question. How many students are enrolled at the Abbey?
350.
Has enrollment been up, down within the past number of years? Or?
It's actually up this year, and it's very stable now.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sorry, I hope I
No,
don't
go
mess up
ahead.
your procedures. So I'd like to call up, or we would like to call up Tom from Principi Engineering, and whatever you do for recognize him as an expert in his field, and he's here to do a pre-presentation, answer any questions you have.
Mr. Principe?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Tom Principi, Principi Engineering Company.
I'm going to make a motion that we accept Mr. Principe as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Second.
Motion been made and second to accept, to recognize Mr. Principe as an expert in civil engineering. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good, Mr. Principe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again, members of the board. Again, as discussed this evening with the architect here, we've been working with the Portsmouth Abbey for a long time with specific with the DEM permits, septic system designs. One of our biggest, permitting items that we were working on since the conception of this project is the DEM permit. There's multiple septic systems on the property itself that service multiple buildings. I'm not sure if it was touched base on this evening that there was already an existing building in place of where our proposal is currently. So the DEM, we operate under a current permit right now for the flow of what was existing prior to this project. There is actually already a sewer manhole and a clean out for us to connect into. So we've been back and forth with the DEM specifically on this project. And what they had said is they're very amenable to this project. The biggest thing is that this is not increasing the overall flow to the actual system that we're tying into because there was already a building there. This is a private development. It's only, exclusive use for the students and faculty of this school. Again, the fact that it's not open to the public is one of the big things that DEM is amenable to. So that permit will be what's called an alteration permit. We don't necessarily need to design a new septic system. We don't necessarily need to upgrade or modify the system that we have that we're tying into it. We are going to put some precautionary measures into the system itself that we're working with Icon and those architects to do that in order to tie into the system, just to prolong the longevity of the existing leach field. So again, I just want to stress that it is a big item on the sewer, septic system rather, and DEM has been involved from the start. Our goal is to get this, hopefully get the special use permit in place and then update that permit after we're through with this process. One of the other things is we've met with the fire chief several times. There were some modifications that were done to accommodate that, but I believe we have a letter from the fire marshal approving the new layout. And again, as some of the items through the special use permit that we need to prove is this will not create a nuisance or hazard in the neighborhood. There are no negative environmental impacts from this proposal. Again, talking about the septic system, we're going to have proper drainage for the roof water runoff and any sort of stormwater mitigation. Soil erosion controls will all be in place. We'll need to file and apply for our soil erosion control permit at the time that we file for the building permits. This will not be detrimental to the surrounding area in any way. As you can see from the presentation from our architect, I think it's going to be a great addition to the school. This will protect the safety, health, and welfare of the community. And again, there will be permanent access to the public street at Corey's Lane itself. We aren't going to affect that in any way because that is a public right of way. And again, this development does not trigger any increased needs for parking with the same reasons why, we're not increasing the need to expand our overall septic system.
Principally, I only have one question.
Sure.
Thank you for going over the special use criteria.
Yep.
Do you know when the old building was removed?
I have to ask Mr. Ferrer if you could step up.
I believe it was 2015, 16.
Okay. What was that building used?
It was a residential home. It was a house. It was a
okay.
dormitory.
I know the
That was,
building now.
yeah, it was a dormitory.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
How many units were in that dormitory?
I believe it was a dorm that had a maximum capacity of 32, including the faculty apartments.
So again, using some of that information too and comparing it to the proposal, again, there is no change in overall use, but the fact that we did have a high flow building there as well, the infrastructure does not need to be upgraded to tie into the system. So
Any questions for Mr. Principe? Thank you, Mr.
thank you,
Principe.
Mr.
Before we bring up the appraiser, Jim, I'd like to I'll give you these. These are the copies of the planning board review, et cetera.
Yeah.
Oh, you have it.
Yep, we do have those.
Okay. And so I bring up Jim, who the appraiser, and ask that he be recognized as an expert in his field.
Good evening.
How are you?
I am well. Thank you for asking.
Full name and address for Teresa.
James Hool, 198 Union Street, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we recognize Mr. Hool as an expert in the field of real estate.
Motion been made and second to accept Mr. Hool as an expert in real estate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Mr. Hool.
Okay, so I think that you received a copy of my report online, but in the event anybody would like a hard copy, I have additional hard copies here. Essentially, I looked at the project. I was asked to look at the project from the aspect of the real estate and land use. And so I essentially did that. The architect gave a very good description. The building is going to be in the center of campus. It's going to be at a site of a building that was already there at one time. It really has absolutely no impact that I can find outside of the campus itself. It's only going to be used by the people on campus. The engineering, as Mr. Principe went through, is conforming and has no particular issues. So I looked at it strictly in terms of the special use criteria that's required for approval for what is an accessory to the primary use of the school on site. I looked at it, the desired use will not be, I looked at the special use permit, Article 7, setting forth the criteria. The desired use will not be detrimental to the surrounding area. It certainly will not. You won't be able to see it from anywhere off campus. It's surrounded by buildings that are actually all larger than itself. No increased traffic or noise, any other detrimental factors. Will be compatible with neighboring land uses. It certainly is. It's in the center of the campus. It's as conforming and compatible as you can possibly get. It's a necessary use for the campus. They have a student center now, but it's very small. It doesn't really accommodate the kind of uses that are necessary for a student center. So I find it's very compatible and very necessary for the ongoing use of the school. It will not create a nuisance in the neighborhood. There are absolutely no factors that will create a nuisance in the neighborhood. Adequate protection is afforded to surrounding properties by the use of open space. Part of that is true. Part of Portsmouth Abbey's open space land is preserved open space. So it certainly will not impact that. And the distance itself, again, is right in the center of campus. So it will not impact any other use. Safe vehicular access and parking are provided. Control of noise, smoke, odors, lighting, and any other objectionable feature is provided. Those are all controlled. Solar rights of abutters are provided for. That is certainly true. There are going to be no impact to anyone off campus. It will be compatible with the current and draft comprehensive community plan. I looked at both plans, the current and the draft, to see. I found that the economic development of the current land use plan talks about the overriding guideline on page 57 for the community to maintain the amount of economic growth necessary to sustain the desired employment and local tax base by the encouragement of forms of industry and commerce. Impact on the environment, social, aesthetic, and most importantly, cultural environment will be within acceptable limits. The Portsmouth Abbey School is among the largest employers in Portsmouth on page 71 of the existing comp plan. Open space, objective 3, to preserve and promote open space character within existing neighborhoods. That certainly fits that because of the fact that so much of the Portsmouth Abbey School is located on land that is maintained as open space. I then looked at the draft land use plan. Cultural institutions are mentioned, chapter 3, page 311. There's a discussion of the Portsmouth Abbey, and they talk about the history and the use, what it means to the town. And the final line is that the community and liturgical life of the monastery overflows into the school and town as a valuable contribution to society. Policy HCR 1-1 is support the education of students, residents, and visitors alike in the importance of preserving historic and cultural heritage of Portsmouth. Element 12, land use goal 1, is to achieve a balanced, orderly, and harmonious land use pattern that preserves historic and cultural resources, supports economic stability, maintains neighborhood integrity, and protects quality of the natural environment. I believe it's very much in harmony with that. And the last item is that the health, safety, and welfare of community are protected. That is certainly true. There are no factors that would create in any hazardous conditions. So I feel that on the basis of the special use being requested, it is very much in conformance with all the standards. Portsmouth Abbey is a major cultural amenity to the town. I think that it's very important to maintain the proper growth in this type of institution. This is a natural flow for the use of the property. So I just feel that it's very important potential use and continuance of the importance of Portsmouth Abbey as a cultural amenity. I have no other statements. I don't know if you have any questions.
Questions, Mr. Hool? No, sir. No, sir, Mr. Hool, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would ask that Mr. Hull's report be submitted into your records.
Okay, thank you. Leah, do you have a copy of that report? If it was submitted with the folder, you shouldn't have to. It's part of the initial package that was given, so. Okay, great. So we're good.
Thank you. So again, thank you for your time and for everyone in the town for all your support. And then if you have any other questions, we're here and we're here to answer anything you have.
Okay, I just have to ask for butters or interested parties, but before I do that, we do have an advisory opinion from the planning board on this, and they have provided a favorable opinion to allow it as 7-0 was their vote. The design review board feels that the needs have been met on the design of this building, so they were advised. And then there is the letter from the fire department, which they just want to make sure that everything is in accordance with normal, fire access for businesses like this, which I believe Mr. Princeby gave testimony to, that they made sure in their plans that does occur, correct? Thank you. Okay, do we have any butters or interested parties that want to speak to this? Is there anybody in the audience? No. We have a Mr. Hero. Oh, okay. Okay, does anybody have any specific landscape questions?
No.
I think we're good. And if we have any abutters or interested parties that would like to speak, please raise your hand on the Zoom app. Mr. Hero, I see your hand is up. We did pull the board and no one actually has any questions for the landscape architect. Okay. So the order is saying,
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, just as a point of order,
yep,
I would just raise the question. Design review didn't have any conditions. Planning board didn't have any conditions. The fire department had specific conditions in regards to the access road being plowed, signs. I'm wondering, is it part of the record and they need to comply, or do we need to set conditions?
setting those type of conditions to plow, et cetera, sort of.
Like, I'm fine if we don't do it. I'm just dotting the i's and crossing the
No,
t's.
I understand.
If you're fine, I'm fine.
I'm good.
All right, it's part of the record. I'm good.
Okay. So. The order of St. Benedict's is before the Board for Tax Assessors Map 32 Lot 2, seeking a special use permit for the purpose of building an 8,000 square foot, one-story new student center. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, Portsmouth Abbey is an asset to the town of Portsmouth. They have 108 acres. Their lot coverage is 2.8%, essentially providing a lot of open space to the town of Portsmouth. I believe the existing student center is like 4,600 square feet. The proposal is going to double that. And I think it's going to be an asset to Portsmouth Abbey. And in regards to all the special use permit criterion, I have to say, Mr. Hool probably did the best job he's ever done in front of this board in terms of going through the conditions of special use criterion. I'm not going to reiterate them, but I'm comfortable that this is going to meet all the criterion. And I vote to approve, and I wish them the best.
Thank you. Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the special use permit. This student center isn't so much an addition to the campus as it is an evolution of the current situation. It'll have no impact on the surrounding community, and it meets the special use criteria. I vote to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
I vote to approve for the reasons stated by Mr. Borden and Mr. Furiel.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Vote to approve. Your experts are very thorough in their walking through the criteria, and I think that you are a great asset to the community.
The chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden and Mr. Furell. I mean, it's to be expected that as buildings age down there, many of them are older now, and not only that, but student needs have changed over the years. So, you know, you add, and to take the words from Mr. Furell, the evolution. I'm sure that at some point, the Order of St. Benedict's will be back here again, because times will change. If they didn't, we'd all have gone to school at that little room, one-room schoolhouse on Union Street. So it's been approved. And Mr. Ferrari, you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Yes. Okay.
So no sense.
I
having to sit
agree.
here. Okay, before we move on to item 3, I am going to break agenda and go to item 10, which is Hope Enterprises LLC. Are they here tonight? Is anyone on for Hope Enterprises LLC? This is 2944 East Main Road. All right, the reason I'm breaking agenda and going to that is because, excuse me, Mr. Borden is in a butter to this property. So therefore has to recuse himself, which means we will not have a quorum to hear that. So that being said, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue it. If they were here, I didn't want them sitting all night to find out that we had to continue that petition. So could I have a motion from the board to continue the petition of Hope Enterprises LLC to our regularly scheduled meeting of July 21st?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second to continue the petition of Hope Enterprises LLC to our regularly scheduled meeting of July 21st. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, moving on. We have a petition from the Raytheon Company, applicant known of.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you. I felt bad. I mean, I can't. I mean, his dad is representing. I mean, he's been in Florida. I mean, Gerard probably didn't know. Caught him by surprise. Well, I would have, if we had 5 members, I would have called the office and said, hey, look, I good faith send this petition. We had 7 members. What are the odds? We're not gonna have 6.
She got here early. We're at granddaughter's birthday party. I had to keep up. Gotta break. We gotta go. We gotta go.
Is.
I don't think there are any homes up there. There might be some military. Yeah. It's not that big. Like top of that. Staying there. He does design. Oh, he designed. There's a lot of creativity. The opposite.
opened it up and it's like a flip thing. And he pulls the lever and cut it till it explodes. I took a face to face. Signing of 20 images. So I've just taken pictures. I'm done. Everybody else is doing art. Yeah, everything was projected up. And I look like some kind of a caveman.
Probably exactly what they thought.
I would even put like #1 pointing to the thing and go, okay, I cause something to fade into the background. Well, that's what I do. Other people have just this beautiful arts. I was just looking at it. Governor Simon said the thing, so I took any picture, any of light 5. They see some. Oh, that's right. Yes.
Zoning Board of Reviews back in session. Everyone got their mics back on? Okay, the next item on the agenda is a petition by the Raytheon Company applicant owner for property located 1847 West Main Road. And they're seeking a special use permit under Article 7 special use permit for antennas. They're seeking to construct a 100-foot self-supporting lattice communications tower, including a 5-foot top-mounted lightning rod. Proposed tower will be located in the northwest quadrant of the subject property. And yes, sir.
I'm Brendan Fitzpatrick.
Okay, raise your right hand.
Sir.
Okay, full name and address for Teresa?
Brendan Fitzpatrick, 14 Cedar Dell Way, Dartmouth, Massachusetts.
Swear to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
All righty, Mr. Fitzpatrick, go ahead.
First off, I'd like to thank the board for viewing our request. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick. I'm an engineer at Raytheon.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, is your microphone on by any chance?
Maybe I need to get closer.
That's better. Thank you.
In the room, we have Rich Lockren, and he is
I do it all the time. Design engineer, expert witness. Okay, we'll get you in if you come up.
Online, we have Tom Voltero. He's our in-house sound counsel. And we also have our civil engineer, Mike Phillip.
Okay, so
And-
go ahead.
Tom is going to go through a PowerPoint presentation for you.
Okay,
And at the end, you guys can ask all the questions you like.
all right, Tom, I've got to do this. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Swear to- Okay, full name and address for Teresa.
Sure. It's Thomas Voltero, Voltero. My address is 24 Chester Street, Chester, in Winchester, Winchester, Massachusetts.
Okay, Mr. Voltero, go ahead and let's run through this.
Thank you very much. And Leah, I'm trying to share my screen, but I'm not able. So are you able to put the PowerPoint on the screen? There we go. Thank you. And I apologize for not being there. I had to attend an elementary school graduation in Boston, so otherwise I would be before you tonight.
No, that's okay. It's understandable. Families first.
That's right. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Gary and Leah. Raytheon is excited to be before you tonight to discuss our proposed communications tower. As you certainly know, Raytheon has been a longstanding member of the Portsmouth community. We have a approximately 155 acre property on West Main Road, consisting of 3 parcels. And this project is on our main parcel. And the purpose of this communications tower is to test our naval radars that we have at our facility. And we are always looking for opportunities to increase our presence in Portsmouth. And our engineers determined that our existing radar test range in the back lot would be a perfect location for this tower to, excuse me, to test our radars on the top of our Nimitz building. And I stated here, this tower is just for Raytheon's use. We're not going to be leasing it to communications towers companies or anybody else. So as you can see in these photos on the left side, this is the rear of our property. We have an existing radar test range, and we have radars on a pad on the right side. And that radar communicates with a very short tower we have further down the hill, 40-foot tower. And we also have a radar array on the top of our building, in the Nimitz building, in the bottom left corner. So the proposed communications tower will be directly in the line of sight from the Nimitz building radar. And due to the fact that this range is on a very steep slope, we're asking for 100 feet to compensate for the height difference between the slope and the top of the building. As you can see here, the radar array on the building is the furthest building in the back, and we test over Narragansett Bay. And Brendan, I'm not sure if you want to add any additional details about the testing that the engineering group does.
All right, for testing, basically the radar's going to radiate, and we're going to give response signals back. That'll reduce things. So it'll be just like a signal that goes out from a radar and it comes all the way back. It's a target or something like that. So it's a totally reduced signal that we're going to be providing that goes back to the radars. There's a new capability that is provided down at Portsmouth. It's going to enable us to get more jobs and whatnot down there. And that's pretty much it. If you have any-
And it's not anything new that Raytheon hasn't been doing for years.
Exactly. We're not radiating any new signals or anything like that. We're just replicating.
Okay.
And to be a little bit more specific, the types of radars we're talking about, if you can see these ships here, there are these kind of flat panel radars right on the hull. So these are very long distance radars that detect aircraft, missiles, and other incoming threats.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Section E of Article 7 states that each antenna shall be provided with a free fall radius of 125 feet of its height.
Right.
So, and it can't be closer than that to any commercial structure. So is this tower, it's 100 feet tall, so it's 125 feet away from the closest building?
It's 210 feet away. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I can put our drawings actually have the setback on it.
Perfect.
I'm not sure how well you can see this, but we're significantly far away from both the Nimitz building and all the property in the setback area is owned by Raytheon, including the lot to the rear here.
So the free fall radius is totally on Raytheon property and 210 feet away from any occupied building.
Yes, sir.
Which is also uphill from the antenna, correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct. If it were
Right.
towards the Nimitz building, it's significantly uphill. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Go ahead.
So just to, I'll just run through the basics of what we're doing, and if you have any specific questions for the architect, Mike Phillips can certainly answer them. So again, the tower is a 100-foot self-supporting lattice tower on a concrete base. And, we'll have various types of antennas on the tower. I provided photos of the typical type we use, dish antennas and horn antennas. We'll also have a lightning rod at the top, range anywhere from 2 to 5 feet. And we have an existing equipment shed near our concrete pad that we'll be relocating down to the base of the tower area. And around the tower, we'll have an 8-foot security fence. And this fence is in addition to the fence that we have already in the test range to keep both employees and outsiders out of the area. And again, we'll have underground conduits connecting the tower to our telco and electrical systems on the main campus. Before I proceed, are there any questions about our equipment?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, hang on a second. Go ahead, Mr.
Sure.
I have a question. I'm not an engineer. I actually used to work for Raytheon for 13 years. It's the same location. It was submarine signal division, which was mostly sonar, but my guess is that this proposed development or proposed tower is for surface ships. Is that correct?
I'll ask Brenda to answer that question.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Okay, Mr. Voltaire, anything else or?
Well, so we do have, we provided photo simulations to the board and the application packet. In the interest of time, I can forego showing those here, or I can run through them. It's the board's preference.
I'm good. What I will do, Mr. Voltaire, if we're kind of ending your part of it, I will just, for the record, run through the special use criteria. Because you are requesting a special use permit. I know you've given testimony that it does meet the free fall radius, et cetera, and it meets all the setback requirements for an antenna. So the desired use won't be detrimental to the surrounding area?
Correct, Mr. Chair. In fact, we provide a little bit of an analysis of the zoning code, so I could certainly run through that right now if you'd like. So
It'll be compatible with neighboring land uses.
Yes, sir.
That's a tough one.
no
It will not
lights.
Won't
I'm
create
sorry.
won't create a nuisance or hazard in the neighborhood.
No, sir.
Okay, adequate protection is afforded to the surrounding property.
Yes, sir.
Safe vehicular access and adequate parking are provided.
Correct. There'll be no additional vehicles or parking needed. So
Control of noise, smoke, odors, lighting, and any other objectionable features are provided.
none. There'll be no lighting, no generator, no additional noise, smoke, odors, vibrations.
Solar rights of the abutters are provided for. Correct.
There'll be no impact to solar. The tower's profile is very thin and it's significantly set back from abutting properties.
Okay. The health, safety, and welfare of the community are protected.
It will be, the fence will ensure there are no intruders and will also protect the health, safety, and well-being of employees.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question. The petition is requesting relief for dimensional variance and special use. The chairman just walked through special use. My guess is the dimensional relief is for a tower.
Yes, sir. The planning staff advises to ask for a dimensional variance due to the 35-foot height limitation. So if it's the same as required, we would ask that due to the unique nature of the property and the characteristics of the range being downhill.
Right, so you're requesting, that's right, a dimensional variance because it's over 35 feet.
Yes, sir.
So that would be the total height including, so it's a 100-foot tower plus the 5-foot lightning rod on the top, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're seeking a 70-foot height variance, correct?
Correct.
And even at that, it still will fall within the 125% radius, free fall radius, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, sometimes I win. All right, is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Volterro?
No, Mr. Chair, that was the end of our presentation, unless you have questions.
Nope, I think we've got most of them. I'm going to ask for any abutters or interested parties that want to speak on it, and then we'll vote on it. So do we have anyone?
If there's anybody that would like to speak in favor or against the application that is online virtually, just virtually raise your hands and I'll elevate you. None
Nope.
noted.
All right. So the Raytheon Company is before the board for tax assessors map 50 lot 1, seeking to install a 100-foot radar tower along with a 5-foot lightning rod on the top. They require a 70-foot height variance and also a special use permit. They've given testimony, they have met that, they believe they've met the special use criteria. And also that even with the additional height, they would still meet within the 125% free fall radius on their own property and not close to any building. So, Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take them one at a time. In regards to the dimensional variance, the question is whether they have a hardship amounting to more than a mere inconvenience. This property is zoned heavy industrial. They have an excessive amount of land. They're in the business of defense. And this is an accessory use that makes perfect sense. I think to deny this tower, which is minimal in the fact that it's the least height that they are proposing in order to line up with their existing arrays that are on the roof. They meet the free fall radius. I think to deny would amount to a hardship more than a mere inconvenience. I vote to approve. In regards to the special use permit criterion, the chairman walked through all the criterion with the petitioner, and they've met all of the criterion. I don't need to walk through them all. Raytheon is an asset to the town of Portsmouth. I think that they meet all the approval, and I vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve the dimensional variance for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden. I also vote to approve the special use permit for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I vote to approve both the special use permit and the dimensional variances for the reasons provided by my colleagues.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
Yes, I agree that Raytheon is an asset to the town and I vote to approve both of the permits.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden. So you're all set. All righty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the board.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a petition by Rosanna Casal and Frank Thurston, tax assessors map 20 lot 96A. Seeking a dimensional variance for rear yard setback and a special use permit to construct an 840 square foot single family structure on a non-conforming lot of record at 0 Walnut Street. Mr. Chappelle.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, member of the boards. I represent Rosanna Casali and Frank Thurston, who is here as well. They're the owners of the property presently addressed as 0 Walnut Street, which is lot 96A on map 20. I don't know if you want to swear Ms. Casali in now or later when we
I could
address
do it
the-
right now. Raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa, please.
Rosanna Casali, 70 Savoy Street, Fall River, Mass. 02723.
Okay, Mr. Chappelle.
So as you stated, Mr. Chairman, this is a substandard lot of record. It is zoned R10. It has only 4,550 square feet. So that does bring into effect the Article 6, Section 4 criteria, as well as the standard dimensional variance criteria. This is also a corner lot having frontage on Walnut as well as Ormerod Street. As the board knows, under our ordinance on a corner lot having frontage on 2 streets, we require a front yard setback of 20 feet off of both. Despite that, we are not here seeking a front yard variance. And we are not seeking a lot coverage variance despite the size of the lot. We're just here seeking a 9.8 foot rear yard variance off of the western boundary of the property. The reason it's that we have designated the backyard as the western boundary is because the proposed driveway and entrance of the house is going to be off of Ormerod Street. If this is approved, not off of Walnut Street. Despite the current address being 0 Walnut. You'll also notice if you look at the plan, there's a septic system that is designed by Mount Hope Engineering. Due to the, again, the size of the lot, there's only so many places that the septic can be placed while leaving room for the home. Again, kind of designating the area that we have to locate the single family home. So I just now address some of the criteria with Ms. Casali, as well as provide some background for the board. So where do you reside now?
In Fall River.
Okay. And you purchased this property in 2020
Yes,
with the hopes of building a home on it and moving to Portsmouth full time?
we did.
And you understand that's a substandard lot of record.
I do.
And despite that, you're here only seeking, again, the rear yard variance that we discussed, not seeking a lot coverage variance, which is fairly common for lots of this size.
Correct.
And if the proposed building were approved, do you believe that it would allow adequate space between buildings for fire protection?
I do.
And in fact, if you look at the plan, the affected neighbor, I'll call him, being the neighbor to your west, his driveway actually separates your property and his house, so there's a little bit of a buffer there. There's also shrubbery and a fence
Not on the side. That's
for the fence here on this side of the driveway.
on his side. Yeah, on the other side of the fence.
So adequate space between your proposed house and the existing house on that lot. And again, to that point, it would allow adequate space for airflow between the buildings and light.
Yes,
And if the petition were approved, do you believe that it would alter the character of the neighborhood?
I don't. No.
You're proposing to build a single family home in a neighborhood with single family houses.
Yes.
And if this petition were approved, it would not create lot coverages or setbacks less than average of neighboring properties.
Right.
In
Yes.
fact, you can see from looking at the plan as well, that the same neighbor that we just discussed is significantly closer to Walnut Street than either of your front yard proposals. And you line up with the neighbor to the north.
Yes. Yep.
And do you believe that if this petition were approved, that it would impose a substantial detriment to the neighbors or the public?
I don't. No.
Now, you did not create the hardship being the size of this land. You didn't have a big plot of land that you subdivided and left this little lot.
No.
And again, in your opinion, do you believe that if it were approved, that this petition would alter the general character of the neighborhood?
I don't.
And the relief being sought being the 840 square foot dwelling, do you believe that is the least relief necessary to alleviate the hardship?
I do. Yes.
And finally, if the petition were not granted, do you believe that it would amount to more than a mere inconvenience, being that you would have a vacant lot that you essentially couldn't build a house?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Go ahead, Mr. Borden.
I have a couple questions. first of all, the cover sheet of the petition states the lot size at 4,550. The lot coverage sheet has the lot size at 4,000. Is it 4,000 or is it?
That's fine. It's 4,000,
4,550?
4550, and I believe it says it on the
Alright.
plan as
So
well.
if
That's
you
my
do the
mistake.
math, and I didn't do the math.
So the
do
front
the-
page of the cover sheet should be correct where they're
All right.
at 18, just over 18%, still below the required
Alright.
20%.
So that 18% is based on the 4,550 and not the 4,000.
That's correct.
All right. The next question is petitioner is requesting a house. Are there any plans for a deck or a storage shed? Typically,
Understood. I understand. it's a-
I'd rather
envelope is
have
described.
you petition now rather than come back.
Understood. And you'll actually notice that so the actual square footage of the proposed dwelling is
25 by 33.
right, is less than, is 800 square feet. We're asking for 840 because they are proposing on the southern side of the property, just a little eave to have a walkout. So that's where that additional 40 square foot comes from. That would still complies with the lot coverage, which is calculated in at the 18% and would not require any setback relief off of Walnut Street.
So does that include like a patio? And under the current ordinance, aren't patios considered lot coverage?
They are, but it's not, there's no proposal
There's
for
no
a patio.
proposal
It's
for a
just,
patio or a storage
there's just
shed.
correct, there's a side door that
Okay.
they're gonna have steps on.
Thank you. Thank you. I was gonna ask that.
Glad you did. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, abutters or interested parties that want to speak to this? Anyone? You have anyone?
If there's anybody online that would like to speak in favor or object to the application, virtually raise your hand. While we're waiting for that, if there's anybody in the public?
I already asked.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no one. Zona Cassell and Frank Thurston before the Board for Tax Assessors map 20, lot 96A.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, the petitioner did go through the special use.
Yeah.
Okay,
he did.
sorry.
Yep, nope, went through that. Seeking a 9.8 foot rear yard variance and also a special use permit for a substandard lot of record for the purpose of constructing an 840 square foot house on their property. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the special use permit criterion first. The petitioner walked through all the criterion. And in my opinion, it meets the criterion of the ordinance. I vote to approve. In regards to the dimensional variance, this lot is extremely small in an R10 zone, half the size. For the petitioner to come in with lot coverage that is compliant with the ordinance is commendable. To deny the petitioner the right to build a home on her lot would certainly amount to a hardship more than a mere inconvenience. So I vote to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the dimensional variance for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden. And I vote to approve the special use permit for a non-standard lot of record, also for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
I vote to approve both, on both counts.
Thank
For the
you.
reasons stated.
Mr. Harris.
I vote to approve on both variances for the reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Chairman also votes to approve the special use permit for a substandard lot of record and also the dimensional variance. I have to agree with Mr. Borden that I commend you for coming in here and staying within the lot coverage percentage. Very rare we see that. So kudos to you for trying to meet the least relief necessary criteria, and good luck with your house. It's been approved.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a petition by John Krusnowski seeking a dimensional variance for front yard setback and maximum percent lot coverage and a special use permit to construct a new 28 by 30 single-family structure on a non-conforming lot of record. Oh, Mr. Chappelle, how are you?
Hello again, long
Haven't
time
seen
no
you in
see.
quite some time.
This one may sound familiar. We are here, with John Krasnowski standing to my right. He and his wife, Stacy, own the property located at 0 Berkeley Avenue. Again, it's an R10 substandard lot of record. They are proposing an 840 square foot home on a lot that is 4,000 square feet. So again, this will require dimensional variances as well as a special use permit for a variance on a substandard lot of record. The variances being sought are a 7-foot front yard variance. The proposed house is 13 feet off of Berkeley Avenue, where 20 is required. It's also requesting a 1% lot coverage variance. The 840 square foot home and a 4,000 square foot lot equates to 21%, again, where 20% is required. I would just ask that he be sworn in.
Mr. Chappelle, before you even go on further, let me get this on the record. So the proposed distance to the property line in the front is 13 feet, correct? So you're seeking a 7-foot variance?
That's correct.
How far is it to the edge of the pavement of the road?
So the pavement is nearly 30 feet. It's
Correct.
as you know, Berkeley on paper is significantly wider than it is paved.
Right. Exactly.
So there is a substantial setback from the road.
And the chances of the town ever widening those roads to 60 feet are going to be slim to none?
Slim
I don't think-
simplification.
None of us will be here to see it.
Right, okay. Just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. I would just ask that Mr. Krasnowski be sworn in for when we address the.
Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Mr. Krasnowski?
Correct,
All
yes.
right, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa, please.
John David Krasnowski, 18 Canton Ave, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
So just a little bit of background. As I said, John lives with his wife Stacy at 18 Canton Avenue, which if you look at your plan, 18 Canton Avenue is essentially the backyard of 0 Berkeley Avenue. That existing OWTS and existing dwelling that you see behind on map 3, lot 31 is their current residence. They live there with their 2 young children. Their living space at their current residence is 520 square feet. And I think Mr. Krasnowski will testify that to say that they are busting at the seams of that house is an understatement. Mr. Krasnowski is a local business owner. His wife is a teacher at is it Melville School. So they're hoping to keep their family in Portsmouth. They purchased this lot with that intent and are looking to build this house for that purpose. As the chairman noted, we are significantly off the street, but still seeking a 7-foot variance from the front yard. The reason that the house cannot be pushed back to alleviate that relief, as you'll see, there was a septic designed by Mount Hope Engineering, Todd Chaplin, in the backyard. So that necessitated the pushing the house closer to Berkeley, again requiring the variance. I'll just quickly go through the criteria for both the special use permit and the variance with Mr. Krasnowski. So again, you know that this lot is a substandard lot of record.
Yes.
Being 4,000 square feet is significantly less than half of the required square footage.
Yes.
And if you were required to satisfy all of the required setbacks and the lot coverage, fair to say that the house that would be left would be insufficient to meet your needs and alleviate the hardship faced by
Correct.
your family.
Yes.
All right, and if this petition were approved, do you believe that there would be adequate space between the buildings for fire protection,
Of course, yes.
as well as light and airflow between the buildings?
Of course, yes.
And if approved, do you believe that this single-family house would alter the character of the neighborhood in Common Fence Point?
Absolutely not.
And this would not create lot coverages and setbacks less than the average of neighboring properties and properties in the neighborhood.
Correct.
You know, it's fairly standard having fairly small lots
Yeah.
in Common
We've
Fence
gotten
Point.
used to it.
If this were approved, do you believe it would impose a substantial detriment to the public or to the neighbors?
Absolutely not.
And you did not cause the hardship that is faced. You didn't, again, have a big plot of land and cut off this 4,000 square foot lot?
No.
Just to challenge yourself and come
No.
in front of the board? And do you have any opinion as to whether this, again, whether this petition would alter the general character of the surrounding area being Common Fence Point?
No, I don't see it altering it at all.
And the relief sought being the 840 square foot house, do you believe that is the least relief necessary to alleviate the hardship faced
I
to
do.
you and your family?
Yeah.
And if the relief were not granted, do you believe that hardship would amount to more than a mere inconvenience?
Yes.
Nothing further if the board has any questions.
I have one question. How did you maintain your sanity through COVID?
Yeah, that is different having a baby during COVID. No, we did very well. I'm very fortunate to have a great wife. No, she's pretty much who holds us all together. So, good. Yeah, no, it's been good.
She must be listening.
Yeah.
That's all
yeah. Oh, a good network of people around us, my family included, and her family too.
I hope she's online watching.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Borden.
I have similar questions to the previous petition.
Sure.
You're requesting the house, but there's no request for a storage shed or a deck.
Excuse me, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
we
Can
got-
you
I got-
repeat that question?
Yeah, yes. Similar to the last petition, you're requesting the house, but there's no request for a deck or a storage shed.
Correct.
I'm just curious.
So in speaking briefly after bringing that up on the last petition, there are no proposed decks or sheds at this time. There is a proposed bulkhead for steps into the basement. So I would ask to, if you give me a second, I can do the quick math, but I believe the standard bulkhead's about 4 by 6, an additional 24 square feet.
So you want to do the quick math and amend the petition?
I'll do the quick math here. Give me 1 second. I went to law school, so I didn't have to do math.
Yes.
Just So rather than a 21% variance, that comes out to 21.65. So I would just ask for a 22% variance,
2%.
a 2% variance from the 20% lot coverage.
So could I have a motion to allow the petitioner to amend their current petition to show they're now requesting a 2% lot coverage variance where originally it was 1%?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second to allow the petitioner to amend their petition where they are now requesting a 2% lot coverage variance where they were originally requesting only a 1%. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any other questions from board members? Anything? No? Pretty cut forward. Do we have any abutters, interested parties? Anyone online, Leah?
I believe there is.
Okay. Yeah. Andreas, can you hear us?
It's muted.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Chairman and parties of the board. My name is Andreas Sömer. I'm the direct neighbor of John's and Stacy's. We are good neighbors for the last couple of years. I moved into that house like 3 years ago. And I think I'm the only neighbor that is really a neighbor of John's and Stacy's. I'm in 23 Berkeley Avenue. So the neighbor on the other side is just, they just have a garden. So, and I have a house next door. So in 23, just a second, 23 Berkeley Avenue. So my question to the board, and of course also to John, is lots of houses came up over the last couple of years in the neighborhood, and every new house is respecting the distances that are being applied. So we all have the proper setbacks, whether it is my house or whether it is 16 Canton Avenue, with the house right next to John, whether it is the house right next to John's house, so I think it's 14 Canton Avenue, and a couple of more houses in Berkeley Avenue and Canton Avenue, so they all have the proper distance there. So so that's one of my questions. I also of course want to ask, so I don't know how high the house will be, so maybe a 3D model would be nice to know. So I only see a 2D model, which I was very happy to obtain from Teresa this morning. So I haven't had a chance to get a different plan. And with that, I also want to ask, you know, the variant to the front, of course, will be impacting my views out of my house. It will, as I said again, I'm the only house that is somehow impacted there. And my question is also, why can't we get a variant to the back of the house, right? John and Stacy are owning 3 properties there. Why not going to the back instead of the 10 feet that I see on the plan here? We can go to 3 feet or 0 feet on the back, and John and Stacy can put the house in the back instead of to the front.
Okay, well, let me address a couple of those. First of all, they can't go to the back of the house, move the house all the way to the back, because that's where the septic system will be located.
Just further to the back, sorry, sir. So I mean, at the end, every neighbor in the neighborhood was able to build the house and the septic system within within the guidelines, right? So
the septic has to be so far from the house.
Yeah, but
Okay.
my house was able also to be in the areas that were necessary, right? So my
Right, well, and it all depends on the type of septic system you have versus the type that's designed for this house, okay? And the house meets all the other septic design. It meets all the other setbacks with the exception of the front right on the road. As far as views go, I have to tell you right up front that views are not rights. No one has a right to a view. So if someone were to build a house and obstruct someone else's view, that's just kind of the way it is. So as far as height goes, I will defer to the applicant, Mr. Schmel. What is the height of the house?
Right. It's below the
35
it's
feet.
below 35 feet. We're not seeking a height variance. And I think I can address some of those concerns as well. Andreas is correct that a developer bought a number of properties in the area
Right.
fairly recently and built houses on them. So for a developer buying lots and building houses, there quite frankly is no hardship. It's almost more of a hardship to pitch a bigger house and come to the board than it is for him to build a house that complies and have someone who lives by themselves move into a smaller home that wouldn't require any variances, rather than a family of 4 be required to meet the setbacks and the lot coverage, and quite frankly have more of a problem on their hands than they have at their current house. And as to his views, before his house went up, oddly enough, the house that the applicant lives in now had a water view. And again, I know it's not a right, but
there is no water view.
Of the bridge.
Of the
Sorry,
bridge. Bridge water.
Barely, no. So, but look, guys, I'm just, you know, I live there. I know whether we have a water view or not, right? So my question is, right now, and according to the plan that I see, we have a 10 feet variance to the back, right? John and
They're not asking for a variance to the back.
Yeah, but my question is, why can't everything be moved 7 feet more to John's another property that he has in the back? So they are owning the other property, right? So the map 3 lot number 31 that I see here, they are owning that too. Why can't they give themselves the variance to go closer to that one? Why does
Mr.
it have to
Andreas,
be front?
because their septic system is back there. They can't move their septic system any further back.
No, wait. I mean everything. Move the whole house, including septic system.
They can't. They cannot
Why
move the
not?
septic
Why not?
system further to the rear.
Why
Just
not?
because it could physically be done doesn't mean it's allowed to be done. DEM is very specific on where a septic system can go. I'm looking at this. Their septic system is behind their house. There's 10 feet from the last set of laterals to the property line. For them to move everything 10 feet back would put those laterals right on the property line. They can't do that.
On a property they own themselves, right?
And it's a separate lot. It's a totally separate lot and DEM will not allow that.
So look, John, you and I are neighbors, right? So I also tried to approach you last weekend. You didn't really answer. So I don't understand. I don't understand you. I know that you use the other property. It's your playground. Your kids are playing there, and that's fine. I'm super happy about that, right? So I'm happy for you, for Tracy, for the kids. It's all cool, right? So, but I don't understand why every house in the neighborhood can be fine with the rules and laws that we have. Only your house needs to be closer to the street. So why is that?
Mr. Andreas, I can assure you that that statement you just made is incorrect.
Which one?
I would say there are greater than 50 to 60% of the houses in Common Fence Point do not meet the front yard setback. We get variances here all the time for that. So to make that statement, that is incorrect.
Okay, so but my question still applies since he owns all the lots, right?
But they're separate lots.
Yeah, but why can't you give him a variance? So right now I see again, and I'm sorry, maybe I just don't get it. I'm here for the first time. Okay, so I apologize if I'm maybe wrong, but I see 10 feet to the back, right? And if that is if that's the design of it, why can't we move the whole structure, meaning the leach fields and everything that's to it? Why can't we move that 7 feet, everything to the back? You know, and then we are back to the 20 feet to the front.
Okay, Mr. Andreas, just try to work with me and then we're going to be done debating this, okay? Here's the thing.
No,
No, you need to let me finish speaking. You need to let me finish, Mr. Andreas, you need to let me finish speaking. Okay. To move everything back 10 feet puts that septic system on the property line.
Okay, 10 feet.
It puts it on the property line of a separate lot.
No, I didn't say 10 feet. I said he's asking for 7 feet.
Even at that, it puts it, Mr. Andreas, even at that, even 7 feet back, DEM is not allowed it. They have approved where it goes. There are certain setback requirements between lot lines and opposing lots. And in this particular case, it doesn't matter who owns the lot behind them. It's a separate lot. Okay? The only way that would change is if they merged all the lots together. That's the only way.
Yeah, but they're living on all three of them.
Go ahead, Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think that this abutter is proposing that he merge the lots and he does not have to do that. The petitioner has the right to petition for a house on his existing lot. And I think we're done with this conversation.
I concur. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, so I think, and I read your office was able to give me the zoning board standards, and I don't think they don't apply. You know, I think the C and D that they're granting the request of variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area. I think they are. because every new house there is being set back. Only the old houses are being further to the front, right? So this is different. D, that the relief is to be granted in the least relief necessary. I don't think so. If my septic system was able to be in the necessary areas, why can't he? So it's the same. My house size is the same than his. Why is my house size according to the rules, but he cannot, right? So and then the other rules that also be on the second one, the desired use to be detrimental to the surrounding area because it's also a new house. It's different than all the other houses. Every other new house has the setback, but his house, right? So why is that? So and also it will be compatible within neighborhood with the neighboring land users. It's also not right because I just told you that every other new house in the area has the proper setback. So why can't be his house?
Okay,
So my question to you is, please apply the same rules to this request to every other house.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andreas.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. John Krasnowski is before the board, tax assessors map 3 lot 31A, seeking a special use permit for a substandard lot of record, and also a 2% lot coverage variance and a 7-foot to the front yard setback for the purpose of constructing a 840 square foot home on their lot. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the special use permit criterion first for a substandard lot of record. The petitioner's attorney, Mr. Chappelle, walked through all the criteria for special use approval for substandard lot of record, and the petitioner has met the approval. In regards to the dimensional variance, this lot is 4,000 square feet, less than half in an R10 zone. The petitioner is only requesting relief for the front yard. They're requesting, I believe, a 7-foot front yard variance. When you look at the actual distance to the road, it clearly meets the criterion. And to build an 840 square foot house on a 4,000 square foot lot is quite a feat, with no deck, no storage shed, and only a 2% lot coverage variance request.
Everybody else can.
Excuse me, I'm speaking,
Leah,
you
could
cannot
cut him
speak.
off? Thank you.
I applaud the petitioner. The petitioner, to deny the petitioner the right to build a home on a 4,000 square foot lot certainly amounts to a hardship more than a mere inconvenience. So I vote to approve the 2% lot coverage variance. I vote to approve the dimensional variance of 7% and a special use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Mr. Furell?
Mr. Chairman, I will also take these one at a time. Use with the lot coverage variance first. I approve the lot coverage variance. The lot is 4,000 square feet in an R10 zone, and to come in at 22% of lot coverage is very good given other homes in the neighborhood. In terms of the 7-foot front yard variance, I also approve that. Placing this home where it is necessitated by the position by the DEM approved septic system. I'm not a septic system expert, so I'm unqualified to say whether it can be moved backwards or forwards, but DEM wants it placed in that position. That constrains the position of the house. Denying that variance would certainly amount to more than a mere inconvenience to the property owners who have a right to utilize their property as a discrete lot. In terms of the special use permit for a substandard lot of record, the applicant has gone through the criteria, and there is, there's adequate space around the building, adequate air and light. If you look at the neighborhood, there are many homes that are closer to the street than mandated by the front yard setback. So I believe this is in harmony with the greater neighborhood. And to deny this would amount to more than a mere inconvenience to the landowner. So, Mr. Chairman, I approve all three items.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
Yes, I also like to approve the, all three items, a 2% lot coverage and a 7-foot setback. And I also agree would be a hardship, not an inconvenience to deny this.
Okay, and the special use criteria?
Special use criteria also, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
I also vote to approve all of the issues presented. I think that your lot coverage and the proposed dimensions that you put before us today are very conservative for the lot, and I think it would amount to more than a mere inconvenience to deny you the opportunity to build a home.
And special use criteria?
I vote to approve as well.
Thank you. Chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden. So it's been approved.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Very much.
Not cool.
Wait a minute. Can you, thank you. Ailey, in the future, can you remove them right when they're done speaking? After we're done with anyone on there? Huh? Absolutely, they can still view, they just aren't part of, so they cannot interrupt. It'd be no different than someone coming up and they go and sit down again. Okay, thanks. Okay, next item on the agenda is a petition by Brian and Martha Gomes of 9 Hicks Lane.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go after that one, but we'll see what we can do. My name is Brian Gomes, live at 9 Hicks Lane. Well, am I going out of order? No, I have to, you guys.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
Yes, I do.
Full name and address for.
Brian Gomes, 9 Hicks Lane.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Gomes.
So I'm here asking for a variance because we needed to replace a dilapidated shed at the back of our property. I chose to go a little bit bigger with the shed, which I'm requiring a 8-foot variance to the 30-foot setback off of the back of my yard. But with that being said, I'm still inside my arborvitae tree line and inside my exterior fence. So it's really not encroaching anything else. It's just it's not giving me 30 feet, it's giving me 22 feet.
Okay, so
Sorry.
let me ask you a question. It says,
Sure.
I'm reading the thing. To allow for a new replacement of a 12 by 16 shed. Is the shed that's there already 12 by 16
No, the shed that was there was 10 by 8.
or 10 by 8?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the difference. So
And you do know that you can have a 10 by 12 is a matter of right. You don't even need to be here.
well, I was told that 10 by 12, I don't need a permit, but I still need to get the variance off of my back line.
Well, you can be 3 feet from the rear property line with a 10 by 12 shed.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because
Who? Oh, okay.
So setback with 30-inch rear.
Oh, well,
Is it because they're on?
they are, because they're on a corner lot.
Yep.
And so you have 2 front yard setbacks.
But yeah,
That's why.
yeah,
And there's a shed all the way in the back right now.
yeah. Well,
And
yeah,
It's, I'm looking at an aerial view of it and it's just like 3 feet off the property line.
no, my property line is another, I think 15 feet beyond that fence.
So let me ask you a question. Is there any reason that you couldn't conform to the square footage, which would be 10 by 12 versus 10 by 16?
I'm with 10 by 16, just if I'm gonna go in front of the board and have to get a variance, I'd rather get a decent sized shed or a little
Always
more
ask for
storage.
bigger.
Yeah, right?
Got it. Okay,
So, Mr.
go ahead, Mr.
Chairman,
Borden.
I'm looking at the petition and I don't see a sheet for a request for
I don't either.
variances for side, yard, front, rear.
What, it's my rear property.
Yeah, no, there's a sheet we normally have. Can we look in the main file, Gary, and see if the setback sheet is in there? Is there one there?
Yes.
Could we see it?
Rear yard setback.
Oh, there we go. There you go, Mr. Borden. Setback required 30, this you can 10 to 12 feet. So is it 10 or 12 feet?
No, yeah, well, it's from my assumed line, it would be 22 feet off of that,
So you would need,
an 8-foot variance.
So why does it say 10 to 12?
right, we're gonna have
If
to
it's
clarify
22?
that. Or we can just,
Well, I also provided a drawing.
yeah, we've got
that
the
shows
drawing,
okay,
that one. That
okay.
we've got.
okay. I mean, should be 22,
Yeah,
but
22, 25, I see that. So 25 in from one, 22 in the back. Does it change lot coverage? No.
He's 10.6%. He's got almost half an acre.
Yeah. All right. I don't have any other questions. You, John?
No.
Do you have any questions, Langdon?
Appears that's landscape back there, there's shrubs
Yeah.
around.
yeah, yep. Yeah, we have arborvitae's around the whole outside of it, so I don't even think it's gonna be visible from the abutting neighbors, but
So to clarify, you're asking for an 8-foot rear yard
variance. Yep.
Okay,
And the reason why I can't do that 8-foot, because then it will be on the back end of my septic.
right. So you're gonna be 22 feet away. We give you 8 feet.
Yep.
That's 30.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Is that the rear yard setback?
He's, yeah, see, he's on a that corner lot, so that's what kind of messes him up.
22 is the rear, right?
What's that?
Yeah.
22 feet to the rear.
Yeah, he's gonna be away 22 feet, so really he needs to be 30. He's asking for an 8-foot variance.
So the variance for the shed size
Right,
and a
8-foot, right. Kevin, you want to say something?
variance for the shed size.
No, not really. It's just, we're allowing a 12, we're,
you can do it.
right.
Don't need a variance to have a shed.
You just need to be able to place it within the, right. He could be coming before us for a garage back there.
Oh, that's fine.
And you just need a variance, right? It's an accessory use. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Kevin, any questions or anything?
No further questions.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No,
Okay. Do we have any butters or interested parties to this? There's anybody on that wants to speak to the Gomes petition, raise your hand. Okay. Seeing none. So Brian and Martha Gomes are before the board for tax assessors map 18, lot 108. seeking an 8-foot rear yard setback for the purpose of putting in a 10 by 16 shed. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, the petitioner is not seeking special use permit for substandard lot of record. The lot is nearly half an acre. The lot coverage is 10.6% with the proposed shed. The shed is an accessory, permitted accessory use to the residential use of the property. And to deny the petitioner the right to have a shed for mowers, lawn equipment, tools would amount to a hardship more than a mere inconvenience. I vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I vote to approve for the reasons previously stated.
Mr. Donovan.
I vote to approve also for the reasons stated by Mr. Borden.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good evening.
Have a good night. Okay, next item on the agenda is a petition by,
Before we start, I have to tell Kevin, the Celtics are down by 15. It started at 9. I'm only kidding.
That was fast.
all right, Jason DeCosta is before the board for tax assessors map 2162 to build a new single-family home with a very similar footprint. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa, please.
Jason DeCosta, 1248 Hope Street, Bristol, Rhode Island.
Okay. Go ahead.
So good evening. My name is Jason DeCosta. I'm the owner of 221 Riverside Street in Portsmouth. We are in the process of finalizing permits with the organizations such as DEM, CRMC, and of course the town. And we are applying tonight for a side yard setback variance on the north side of the house. We'll be having to elevate the home 9 feet on concrete piers to appease the FEMA flood code for the area. It's a V-rated zone. And so we need obviously, a side deck and a front deck to get out of the house. So the only variance that I need in the entire project for zoning would be this side yard setback variance, which is just for a small deck, basically. And it would be a 6-foot variance request on the north side. Excuse me.
And other than that, you'll meet lot coverage and all that.
Yes, sir.
Although I don't see that sheet here.
Yeah, we'll be at around 16% lot coverage with the new build. We're only increasing the actual size by maybe altogether with both floors, maybe 100 square feet. And then, yeah, so even with the decks, we come in around 18, maybe 18.5% lot coverage. So we'll be under that as well.
Okay, so the only thing you're seeking is just that 4 foot aside for a 6-foot by 8-foot deck, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. We actually, there's talks to maybe connect it to the front deck because the front porch is gonna kind of like connect on that northwest corner.
Right.
But that wouldn't do anything, additional to what I'm requesting tonight. Still be a 6-foot variance.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Borden.
On the petition for dimensional variance states the side yard variance request is 7 feet. The diagram shows 4 feet, which would be a 6-foot variance.
I'm sorry, that could be an
So
error
is
on
it
my
6 or
part.
7?
It'll be 6. Yeah, so.
Okay. All right, and other than that, anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any questions, other questions from the board at all? No?
I mean, I would say that, we need a second exit, obviously, and the house is going to be elevated. So I don't think it's anything unreasonable, to ask for that.
Second means of egress.
Exactly, yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention too is with DEM, obviously you need certain setbacks from the water main and whatnot, so we're pretty packed in the front yard. We're about as tight as we can get, so, we can't really move it anywhere else. So,
Mr. Chairman, I don't see the lot size reference on the cover sheet.
it's roughly 4,900 square feet.
Could we check is there a lot coverage sheet in the folder at all? Nope. So I'll take that and you can take this one back over there. I'll come get it, Gary.
I know. It's like- That's okay. Yeah, we can probably figure it out. Okay, so why is it 15.5? All right, we're good.
Okay, Mr. Borden,
I'm good.
you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions? Let's see. So how big was the lot?
4,800.
So that's a substandard lot of record. too.
Correct. We
So
need to do the
we need
special
to do the
use
special
permit.
use criteria as well. So because it's a substandard lot of record, I do have to ask you some questions.
Sure.
If this were allowed, would it still allow adequate space for fire protection?
Yes,
Would it provide adequate light and air between buildings?
yes,
Would it create, would it alter the character of the neighborhood or adversely affect any neighboring properties?
not at all.
Would it create lot coverage and setbacks less than the average lot coverage and setbacks of adjacent properties?
No,
Would it impose a substantial detriment to the public or to immediate neighbors?
No.
Thank you. All right, I just have to ask for any abutters or interested parties to this. Do we have any? What's that? Oh, don't, right there. Okay, go ahead.
Tony, if you can hear us. You can unmute yourself, Tony.
Mr. Capasso, can you hear us?
I can, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Could I just have your full name and address, please, for Teresa?
It's Tony Capasso. It's 7 Bay Street, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, 02871.
Okay, Mr. Capasso, what would you like to add?
I'm basically in his backyard. I'm just wondering the deck, the wraparound deck, is that going to come any closer to the original building that was there before it was knocked down? Is that any closer? Because that was already, I want to say 8 feet or so from the fence. I'm just wondering if this is going to.
Right. No, Tony, actually, we're moving the home 10 feet further into the yard. So the old
Oh,
structure, yeah, it's actually going to come further away from the fence. So we're able to still keep the 20-foot rear setback, which the old house was only, as you know, maybe 8 feet off the fence.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, it'll be a lot more space back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really my only question.
What's the height?
Cool. The height is going to be about 31, 32, somewhere in that range, even with the 9-foot piers. So, we're
Okay.
under the 35 too.
All right.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Jason.
Is there anything else, Mr. Capasso?
No, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
No, you don't want to mute him. You want to remove him.
What if he has another question?
No. Thank you. Okay, Jason DeCosta is before the board for tax assessors map 22, lot, tax assessor map 20 lot 162, seeking a 4-foot side yard variance. 6-foot side yard variance. For the purpose of rebuilding their new home, a new home on a lot that previously had one. And also a special use permit for a substandard lot of record. Go ahead, Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'll take the special use permit request for a substandard lot of record. The petitioner walked through all the criteria with the chairman, and I'm comfortable that he complies with the ordinance. This lot is only 4,800 square feet. And to have lot coverage of 15.5% is remarkable. I understand the petitioner's request for a 6-foot side yard variance for the means of a second exit for safety purposes. I think to deny the petitioner the right to build a home on a 4,800 square foot lot would certainly amount to more than a mere inconvenience. So I vote to approve both the special use permit for substandard lot of record and the dimensional variance.
Thank you, Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve both the substandard lot of record special use permit and the side yard dimensional variance for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan.
I also vote to approve both items for the reasons stated by Mr. Borden.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
I vote to approve both the special use permit and the dimensional variance for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve both the special use permit and the dimensional variance for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden as well. So you've been approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go Celtics.
Good luck. Yes, they're up by 10.
No, I'm only kidding. I have no idea.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a petition by Robert Chartrand for tax assessors map 77 lot 101 and is seeking put a shed, let me read this correctly, a 12 by 38 shed which will not comply with required setback requirements on the non-conforming lot of record. So it requires both a dimensional variance and a special use permit for a substandard lot of record, but it's 15,000 square feet. That's because it's an R20 zone. Okay. Mr. Chartrand on?
He is on. Bob, if you can unmute yourself, that would be great.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
You can. Mr. Chartrand, do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay.
And I'm telling the truth by updating you with the Celtics lead 18-12.
Oh, good news.
Okay, our town solicitor didn't want to hear that because he's taping the game.
But I
Oh, sorry.
appreciate the update.
It's early.
Thank you.
That's
It's
okay.
It's a positive update.
It's not the third quarter yet.
Okay, Mr. Chartrand, why don't you explain to us what you'd like to do?
Okay, thank you to the board for spending a late night. I appreciate it. As you can see on the plan,
Hang
we
on
have,
1 second, Mr. Chartrand. Yeah, Teresa? Can we get your address, Mr. Chartrand?
oh, certainly. My address is 85 Washington Street, apartment 7213. And that's in Plainville, Massachusetts.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we have on our site, we have a 15,000 square foot lot, which was two 7,500 square foot lots that were combined by the town at some point in the past. And we have an existing shed on the lot, which is in a state of disrepair and really needs to be replaced. And that shed is about 10 feet by 28 or so in size. So we are asking to construct a new shed to the, on the plan right side of the property to replace that existing shed. Now, we have a corner lot between Alice and Daniel. So my understanding is that we have 2 front yards and 2 rear yards.
No, you have 2 front yards, but not 2 rear yards. Okay,
All
so
right, so-
basically, I'm kind of looking at aerial view. So basically you just want to replace what's there, and you're not going to meet the 1 side yard setback by 15 feet. So you need a 15-foot
We're looking
front
for, I
yard,
guess,
side yard.
if that's a
var-
side yard, then we don't need the
Rear
I was
yard.
Yeah, I was instructed by the building inspector that we have two front yards and 2 rear yards if we have a
Okay.
corner lot. So we
So
needed
it's
to
a
seek a
15-foot
variance.
Right, 15-foot rear yard
Correct.
variance. Yep. Okay.
South lot line.
Right.
So we are, the lot is 100 feet in width or depth, depending on how you look at it. And if we were to comply with the 30-foot setback requirement, that would put the shed out in the middle of the lot,
Right.
which we feel is just not going to allow us recreational and outdoor use of the space that we have there available. So we are seeking a variance on the setback.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I don't see
have the lot coverage sheet.
sheet.
I was just looking for it myself. Is there a lot coverage sheet in the folder? Not the,
Lot covered in petition.
I submitted it.
yeah, let me see.
That's my
Oh,
fault,
oh.
Bob,
Okay,
not yours.
Nope, that's not it. We're looking, Harry, this is the one we're looking for. Let's see, was it? So I just pulled one up from another one. There's, see it, the lot coverage one.
10.5%. I gotta wait 15,000 square foot.
It's okay, we can figure.
We'll
it out.
figure it out.
We'll figure it out if
Yeah,
you don't have it handy. That's fine. No problem. So let's figure it out. The lot is
15,000 square feet.
what are the dimensions of the lot?
15,000
lots are,
square feet.
right, it's 100 by 150.
Right.
So, lot coverage, 10.5%
Existing,
existing.
right.
So the addition of the shed probably isn't going to, because the existing shed is going to be demolished.
Correct,
Correct.
right. So what is the dimension of the old shed? I thought you said it was like 10 by 38,
It's 10 by 28.
10 by 28.
Yeah, give or take a
Now-
foot.
And you now want to put in a 12 by 38.
Correct.
It's 280.
So they should be fine with 15,000 square feet. They're at 10.5%.
Yeah.
So
That'll
I'm
be
not,
fine.
I'm not concerned.
Yeah, okay. No, because it's only additional less than 200 square feet. Okay. We're good. Okay, so basically, I do have to run through the special use criteria.
Certainly, I understand.
So let me run through that, Mr. Chartrand. So if allowed, would this still allow adequate space for fire protection?
Yes, there is, we're 45 feet away from the house, from the house and to an adjacent house on an adjacent lot. We're clear open to the street from the front, and there's 15 feet along the back rear yard, so there's plenty of space for fire protection.
Would it provide adequate light and air between buildings?
Yes, we're pretty well separated from adjacent structures.
Would it alter the character of the neighborhood or adversely affect neighboring property?
No, I think that the properties in the neighborhood all have sheds. And the lot coverages are consistent with what we're showing here. So I don't think there's any change in character in the neighborhood.
Would it create lot coverage and setbacks less than the average lot coverage and setbacks of adjacent properties?
No, I think the adjacent properties seems to be like a 15-foot setback is about the average.
Okay.
So it would be consistent.
Would it impose a substantial detriment to the public or to immediate neighbors?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me just ask for butters or interested parties. See if we have any. And we do not. Nope. Okay, so seeing none, Robert Chartrand is before the board, tax assessors map 77 lot 101, seeking a 15-foot rear yard setback and a special use permit for a substandard lot of record for the purpose of replacing an existing shed and installing a new larger 12 by 38 foot shed. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, again, the petitioner walked through the criterion with our chairman. And in my opinion, he meets all the criterion under the ordinance. I vote to approve the special use permit request for a substandard lot of record. In regards to the dimensional variance, again, the shed is a permitted accessory use. Petitioner is constrained by having to meet 2 front yard setbacks requests. The petitioner is 15 feet away from Alice Avenue. A shed, again, is a reasonable request to store lawn equipment, tools, etc. Petitioner has 10.5% lot coverage existing, even with the additional square footage. Even if he's 11 or 12%, he's well within the 20% coverage under the ordinance. To deny would amount to more than a mere inconvenience. I vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the dimensional variance. The size and configuration of the lot inhibits the applicant from moving the proposed structure further away from the lot line. And I also vote to approve the special use permit for a substandard lot of record for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I also vote to approve the dimensional variance in the special use permit for the reasons previously stated by my colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
I'd like to also approve the dimensional variances and special use permit for the substandard lot of record. The lot coverage is only 11.6 in this case.
Okay, thank you very much. Chairman also votes to approve both the special use permit for a substandard lot of record and the dimensional variance for reasons previously stated by my colleagues. So you've been approved.
Okay, thank you very much. I
Thank you, Mr.
appreciate
Chartrand.
your time and have a great evening.
You as well.
Thank you.
All right, last item on the agenda tonight is a petition by Andrew Johnson, applicant and owner, seeking a special use permit to construct an attached garage and living space addition to the pre-existing non-conforming 3-family residential structure located on tax assessor's map 68 lot 3D. We have Mr. Johnson on.
I'm promoting the property owner Andrew Johnson to a panelist as well as his representative Neil Hingarani.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the board. Neil Hingarani, Narragansett Engineering.
Yeah, let me swear in. First of all, she's got to remove, where get Mr. Johnson on. He was there somewhere. I think he's still over. Yeah, there you go. Let's promote him. Now, don't you? Yeah. There we go. Let's see, is Mr. Johnson on?
I can see him coming up.
It is Mr. Johnson.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Johnson. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth. Full name and address for Teresa, please.
Yep, Andrew Johnson, 310 Old Mill Lane, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Thank you. Mr. Higurani. Full name and address for Teresa.
Sure. Neil Hingorani, 3102 East Main Road, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Okay, let's explain to the board what you'd like to do.
Sure. So obviously I'm here with Andrew Johnson for an application at 310 Old Mill Lane. Site's corner lot, also on the corner of Prince Henry Ave. Purpose of the application is for Andrew and his family to expand his home. They've just had a second child and the family needs some additional space. They're living in what amounts to a rental, a unit right now, a unit in the building. So the reason we're here before you is that the structure is a triplex. It houses a main unit, which will be the family's home, as well as 2 existing rental units. The building has existed in this configuration for over 50 years and provides valuable rental units that are scarce in town. The property, again, is zoned R40, where single family dwellings and duplexes are allowed by right, but not triplex units. So since the use is non-conforming, alteration of a non-conforming use requires a special use permit, which is why we're here. As part of the application materials, I submitted a site plan that demonstrates that the proposed addition will conform to setbacks and lot coverage. We're not requesting any relief. We also included architectural plans that basically show the addition maintains the same style and character of the existing home. There's no increase in the number of bedrooms. Each unit presently has 2 bedrooms for a total of 6. Some of the bedrooms will be enlarged, but again, no new bedrooms will be created. The site already maintains a septic system sufficient for 6 bedrooms. That was installed in conformance with the current septic regulations, and there's an application number to back that up, which is 0227-1331. The site already maintains sufficient parking. There are 6 parking spaces to the north of the structure, all of which will remain. There will be increased parking available in the garage for a total of 8 spaces, whereas 6 would be required by the zoning requirements. And again, the only unit that will increase in area is the unit that will be Mr. Johnson's home. The rental units are not being expanded as part of this application. I submitted a letter in the application with respect to the special use criteria. I'm happy to read that into the record or not. Really, that's the up to the pleasure of the board.
Hang on a quick second.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that. I just wanted to clarify because we're talking about a non-conforming use and expanding it, but just wanted to make sure that we were allowed to, and we are allowed to as with special use permit, so.
I'll just reiterate what I just said and add another element based on some discussion I've heard tonight, but I did submit a letter in the application with respect to the special use criteria. I'm happy to read that into the record or not. That's really up to the pleasure of the board.
Well, you know, if you read it into the record, it just saves me from having to ask you each question individually.
Sure, that's fair. I'm going to read that into the record and then bring one element up that we haven't gotten to. So let's start with A. The desired use will not be detrimental to the surrounding area. It will not, as it has existed for over 50 years without issue and meets all zoning dimensional requirements. The use will not be detrimental to the surrounding area. Standard B, it will be compatible with neighboring land uses. Again, it's existed for 50 years without issue, so it's demonstrably in conformance with its surroundings. Standard C, it will not create a nuisance or hazard in the neighborhood. And the response is the addition meets all dimensional requirements, adequate parking is provided, and it maintains sufficient OWTS capacity. So again, it will not be a nuisance or hazard. Standard D, adequate protection is afforded to the surrounding property by the use of open space and planting. And the response is that generous setbacks are afforded to all lot lines. The lot coverage is only 5.1%, and there is already a fence between the easterly abutter and the property is already well landscaped. Standard E, safe vehicular access and adequate parking are provided. And the response, as previously noted, 6 spaces are required and 8 are provided. The parking area is also screened from view. Standard F, control of noise, smoke, odors, lighting, and other objectionable features is provided. And the response is that no increase in the use intensity is proposed, nor will there be any increased noise, smoke, odors, or objectionable lighting. Standard G, solar rights of the abutters are provided for, and the response is that the structure maintains adequate setbacks from the abutter to prevent infringement on solar rights. Standard H, the proposed special use will be in conformance with the purpose and intent of the comp plan and the zoning ordinance of the town of Portsmouth. Again, the proposed use is pre-existing and provides needed rental units. It's in conformance with the comp plan and the zoning ordinance. Standard I, health, safety, and welfare of the community are protected. A response, again, by virtue of the conformance with the zoning standards, setbacks, parking, and OWTS. The health, safety, and welfare of the community are protected. And standard J is not applicable since it's not in the town center district. One element I did want to bring up briefly, after we submitted this application, the owner and I discussed the possibility of adding a deck to the north part of the structure. I wasn't sure if a deck alone, since it's an accessory element, would trigger the need for a special use permit. But if the board's opinion is that it does, we may need to amend this application.
Well, I think it would be if it's going to encroach or require any variances.
It would not. It would conform with all dimensional requirements, and it would tick the setback, the coverage up to a meager 5.6%.
I wouldn't see a need. No.
Okay.
I think you can do it by right.
Right.
Appreciate that.
They could put a deck on now as a matter of right.
I would think they're 5.6.1%.
You know what I mean? In other words, forget the garage. If they wanted to put a deck in the house and it met all the criteria, short of getting a building permit, that's all they need to do.
That was my assumption based on some of the discussion I heard here tonight. I wanted to be safe.
You can put the deck on the existing house.
So if they expand it with a deck, so we should.
So
include it.
anything they do, period,
All right.
technically, they would have to have it. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kevin.
All right.
So technically, if they were gonna put a deck on, yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have 2
Yeah,
questions.
go ahead.
One, are you proposing to amend your petition to include a deck in your proposal? And what size would it be?
That's correct. The deck would be 6 feet by 26 feet. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, that's correct.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I would move that the petitioner be allowed to amend the petition to include a 6 by 26 foot deck.
Could I have a second?
Seconded.
Motion been made and second to allow the petitioner to amend their petition to now show that they additionally They're going to request a 6-foot by 26-foot deck as part of this petition. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I would also state that I believe the petitioner stated that the lot coverage would go up from 5.1 to 5.6%, which is well within the ordinance. And my last question, well, maybe not my last question, but since the property is located in an R40 zone and the lot is 35,443, does the petitioner need to meet the substandard lot of record criteria in addition to the special use permit for expansion of a non-conforming, approved non-conforming?
I'll defer to the solicitor because the special use permit criteria is more strict than the substandard lot of record. It's almost the same. Right, it's the same thing, right.
So he doesn't need to go specifically.
The two different special use.
Thank you.
permits. Yeah. We good?
We're good.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that concludes what I have. Andrew, do you want to add anything?
No, just thank you for the everyone's time this evening. Certainly I could ramble on about the need for the proposed project, but I'll spare everyone the time and happy to answer more questions if there are any. But thank you, Neil, and for the board members for your review.
Okay. I just asked to ask for butters or interested parties. Do we have anyone? No, we do
attendees,
not.
we're all
Everybody
family.
left. Okay, so Andrew Johnson's before the board for tax assessors map 68 lot 3D. Requesting to put an addition on to their existing 3-family dwelling, also a 6-foot by 26-foot deck. The petition requires a special use permit of which the applicant has given testimony that they meet all that criteria. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, this is a pre-existing non-conforming use, and the petitioner is not proposing to add additional rental units. The petitioner is simply requesting to add a garage and increase the living space and maintain the 3-family use that's been in place for, I believe testimony was 50 years. The petitioner walked through all the criterion for special use criterion, and in my opinion, it meets all the criterion under the ordinance, and I vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the special use permit for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
I also vote to approve for the reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I also vote to approve on the same basis.
Chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden, so you've been approved.
Thank you all for
Very
your
much.
time. Appreciate you hanging
Good
out till the
evening,
end.
everyone.
Great night.
Motion to adjourn?
Prior to that, I would like to publicly thank Mr. Crosby for all his years of service and all of your support to the zoning board and to the town. We very much appreciate it. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could also add, I would like to personally thank Mr. Crosby as well. He was supportive when I started the design review board, and he's been instrumental throughout my years of service. A person I could go to ask a zoning question to, and I wish him the best in retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby.
Thank you very much. Much
Now I will
appreciated.
entertain the motion to adjourn. Could I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you all down. Appreciate it, Lee. Thank you.
You guys are stuck with me now.
Good work.
Kudos to you.
Yes, they are, yes. And that's what I did.
He wanted him to merge.
I don't know
He
if I
wanted
have the
him to merge
ability
the
to do that,
lots.
which is why I just muted Andres.